There's something so unusual when we talk about cartoons and animations from the past. Not only the muffled and distorted voice acting in the time period, but rather of how uncanny they are and how ambiguous they can be. Today we're about to go back in time to see some obscure and bizarre vintage cartoons and animations that became lost media. The Tale of the Priest and of His Workman Balda is a partially found 1930s film directed by Mikhail Tekhanovsky. The film is an adaptation on the fairy tale of the same name, written by Russian author Alexander Pushkin. The fairy tale is about a lazy priest who is looking for a cheap worker in a market. He meets Balda, who agrees to work for the priest for a year without any pay, but only if he was allowed to hit the priest 3 times on his forehead and have a cook spell for food. Eventually, the priest realizes that Balda not only is a very patient man, but he's very strong. The priest begins to get worried, giving Balda to accomplish impossible tasks, such as collecting fabric from sea devils. The novel ends with Balda giving the priest 3 blows on his forehead, resulting in the priest losing his mind, saying, quote, "You shouldn't have gone rushing off after cheapness." The music of the short film was composed by Dmitry Shostakovich, but unfortunately, he had to stop working to the film in 1936 due to a lot of criticism. The film was also unfit for Pushkin's tale due to the constructive art style that was used. In 1941, most of the film was almost destroyed due to the bombings in Leningrad in World War II. The only remaining footage we have of this short film is the excerpt known as Bazaar. In 2005, the film's score was completed by Vadim Berbagon, a Shostakovich student, and was premiered at the Russian Philharmonic Orchestra in 2006. The Adventures of Pinocchio was an Italian animated film produced by Cartoni Animati Italiani Roma and directed by Raul Verdini and Umberto Spano. The film was based on Carlo Collodi's The Adventures of Pinocchio, which was published in 1883. The story opens with a piece of wood in a carpenter's workshop. Master Jerry discovers it talks and quickly passes it to his friend Geppetto, who carves it into a puppet he names Pinocchio. The puppet causes trouble before he's even finished. He steals Geppetto's wig, kicks him in the nose, and the moment his feet are carved, he runs straight out into the street. He kills the talking cricket with a mallet when the cricket tries to warn him about the consequences of laziness and disobedience. He burns his own feet on falling asleep by the fire. He is tricked repeatedly by the fox and the cat, getting hanged from the great oak, and rescued by the blue-haired fairy. He skips school to watch a puppet show, selling his reading book for a ticket, and eventually ends up being swallowed by the terrible dogfish, which he finds Geppetto, who had gone searching for him at sea. Finally, only after rescuing his father and spending months working honestly to support him, Pinocchio earns his transformation and he becomes a real boy. This animated film was originally intended to be the very first animated film from Italy and the very first film adaptation from Collodi's novel, but was never completed due to lack of fundings and various technical issues. The film eventually became lost, and the only surviving material from the film are some model sheets, a script that was written for the film, and some still frames. Peludopolis is a lost political satire animated film directed by Quirino Cristiani in 1931. The plot involves the then Argentinian president Hipólito Yrigoyen floating around his boat in Peludo City while being harassed constantly by sharks, also known as the Radicals, referencing the Radical Civic Union. After a year into production, Rigoyen was haunted by a coup d'etat and production was halted. Cristiani, still wanting the film to be released and completed, he began to de-emphasize Rigoyen and the Sharks, and adding generals and an everyman character named Juan Pueblo to act as the moral center. Finally, the film was released on September 16, 1931. Peludopolis is considered to be the first Spanish animated film with sound, and included songs that aren't still known to this day. Sadly, between 1957 and 1961, fires broke out where most of Cristiani's films were stored. The only surviving material we have is a behind the scenes footage from the movie, some still frames, and posters. Kutsu Juku, also known as The Adventures of Juku the Dog, is an Estonian experimental short directed by Voldemar Pats in 1931. Production began in 1930 at the Alexander Tepper's photo studio in Tallinn. 5,000 drawings were made and had a duration of 6 minutes. It was finished and released on April 17, 1931, first appearing at two theaters, one in Tallinn and one in Tartu. However, 4 minutes of the film survived as it was found in the Estonian Historical Archives in 1986. Initially, this short film was intended to be a series, followed by part 2 named The Adventures of Juku in the Country and Beyond, which has not been completed and is still lost to this day. Was That a Dream? Was an animated short made by the Polish animation studio SFR, directed by Zdzisław Lotshore. I don't know if I said that right. According to the Lost Media Wiki, there are two versions of this film, the first one being in 1947 and the second one being in 1948. The plot of the first version goes as follows. Quote, the film was about a goose shepherd named Maricia, or Mary, who during work decides to sleep under a tree. Then the butterfly takes her to the land of fairy tales, where a forest orchestra made of little people are singing and dancing on flowers and mushrooms, making musical notes come to life and floating through the forest. Suddenly, the notes fall into the cave and are caught in the spider's nest. The said animal wants to eat them, and the notes are crying for help. Everybody is going to the cave to help them. However, it is guarded by evil creatures. The monsters are defeated thanks to a miner who played the horn and blew them into the abyss. Then he tears apart the web and saves the musical notes. Later, the forest creatures place flowers at Maricia's feet, and then she wakes up and asks herself, was that a dream? However, the second one has a more darker tone in comparison to the first one. Quote, Maricia is working as a goose shepherd. Then the butterfly takes her to the evil world, where she is attacked by demons in dark colors. As seen in one frame, some of them had Nazi symbols, such as the SS. In the end, 4 dwarves are defeating the monsters. Later, Maricia sings, wakes up, and asks herself, was that a dream? The two versions were banned by the Polish Communist Authority due to the films being quote-unquote pushy. Another issue was that in the film, Maricia was rescued by the gnomes and not by the Soviet army. But nowadays, both versions are still lost. From the first versions, only 2 frames were found, and the same goes for the second version. But not only that, fragments of the storyboard were also found. The World of Power and Women is an anime directed by Kenzo Masaoka in 1933. The plot involves a father of 4 children married to a woman who is 180 centimeters long and weighs 120 kilograms. Due to him being bullied at home, he gets involved in an affair with a typist at his work and unintentionally tells his wife about his affair while talking in his sleep. After getting some evidence of the affair, the wife decides to confront her husband and the typist at her husband's office. As of now, this anime is considered lost media due to poor storage. Of what we have are some still frames. Thank you guys so much for watching. Also, thank you very much for the amazing support I received on my first video, the one about the lost Disney commercials video. I just never expected this video to blow up. I just thought it would get like maybe 20, 30 views. But no, we're 1,091 views. That's insane, guys. I also got some positive comments. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.